Welcome to WHAQ, a talk show centered around the beauty of queerness and the challenges it brings, with hosts pansexual princess, get Lizzie with it, she, her, and the sapphic sensation games mistress. That's GAYMES, mistress. Also, she, her. So today we're going to be talking about, well, in fact, it's your episode. Do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, I'm going to say what we're talking about, and I'm going to hand it over to you because you've got something else to talk about first. But so today it's going to be one of my newly favorite topics, which is CompHet, which is short for Compulsory Heterosexuality. And so just talking about how that impacts the ability for queer people to recognize they're queer. And it's very linked to heteronormativity and things like that. It's especially talked about in cases of later life lesbians, which is the term used for women who realize later in life that they're lesbian. But really broadly, also impacts lots of women, especially in recognizing that they're queer of any type until later in life. So it's something near and dear to my heart. And I'm excited to chat about it. And it's the story of so many families, Jinx. It's so Jinx said in chat, this is the story of my family. And I'm like, yep, so many. And so,
Mine too, yeah.
I'm excited to, it's really common, which is why I think it's important to chat about. But before that, something has happened that feels important to talk about because we are primarily a UK-based show, especially. But Liz.
Yeah, so we just wanted to say at the top of the episode, we wanted to mark the news that sadly Paul O'Grady passed away Tuesday evening at the age of 67. Unexpectedly, but peacefully. And we just wanted to celebrate him and celebrate his life of, activism, everything that he did, obviously for queer rights, for drag in the UK, even for the working class. He was a working class hero. He was on primetime TV slagging off governments for making austerity cuts and whatnot. He was working class hero through and through, and has done so much for the LGBTQ plus community. And obviously, as sad as it is, it's been warming to see people share stories about him on Twitter today. There's one in particular that has stuck in my mind about him being on stage as Lily Savage during the RVT raid, where the police burst in, gloves up to their elbows, and Lily Savage immediately
Can you
quips.
Explain what the raid was, just for non-UK folks?
Especially. Sorry, thank you. Good point. So the raid on RVT is the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, which was a queer pub in London. And they were the subject of a police raid during the height of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. And police came to shut the place down, gloves up to their elbows, and she saw them burst in and immediately quipped, celebrating that they finally had some help to do the washing up around the back. And Lily Savage, obviously known for having an absolute cutthroat wit, and Paul O'Grady known for having a heart of gold, and will be truly missed. And as Tom says in chat, we lost a good one. Just wanted to mark that. I was saying to Gem earlier, and I've seen a couple of people. I've seen someone, Ben, in our community, tweet today, Lily Savage was probably one of the first drag queens that many, many people around my age in the UK ever saw. And she was presenting primetime TV on big television networks. And obviously that representation was was fantastic, and Paul O'Grady will be sorely missed. An absolute legend.
Even the animal shelter that I'm going to be volunteering with in the UK, where we live, posted on Facebook today about losing him because he was also a big advocate for animals, like adoption and things like that. And so in the last year, he'd helped this small, relatively small local animal sanctuary find a home for a little teacup Yorkie named Flossie. And so they posted today of him and Flossie in his memory. I think that it's just this beautiful thing. I mean, obviously it's sad. It's so like I'm tearing up thinking about it, but at the same time, like sometimes it's just really good to remember there's good people in the world
Yeah, for sure.
and that there has been good people in the
For
world,
sure.
right? Like sometimes like the loss is awful, but the memories are beautiful. And there's this like really beautiful saying within Judaism, which is may their memory be eternal, because we know that life cannot be. But the idea that someone may live in memories forever is a real sense of like who they were as a person. And so may his memory be eternal.
Yeah. Like I am surprised how hard it hit me, especially when I sat and thought about, like is probably one of the very first examples of queerness that I had ever seen, and it was just normal. Like you turn the TV on a Saturday evening, and there's a drag queen. Like, and Lily Savage used to present the Big Breakfast as well, which was a big morning, obviously by the name Big Breakfast, daytime TV show as well, and it was just proof that representation matters.
Absolutely.
It really, really does.
But I also think again, I'm not toxic positivity, but I am an optimist for sure. And so one of the things I'm thinking about is we're things are really hard right now and we feel really far from that, and yet we're not, right? We're only a few years out of that being so okay and that being normal. And I don't believe we're as far from that. We need to keep fighting. I'm not saying we can give up, but at the same time, I do believe that we have precedents of things being different. And so I don't know. I
Yeah,
hold
there's
on to that.
precedent of acceptance, and
Mhm.
as often that it can feel all doom and gloom, we are progressing. We just need to keep
Mhm.
at it. And I know that we have this conversation pretty regularly, but there is
Mhm.
more of us than there are of them. It just so happens that them, being the bigots, tend to
Are
shout
loud.
louder. Yeah.
Fucking loud, yeah. So, um, in honor of Paul, let's go advocate for some people who need it today, right?
Hell
And
yeah.
every day.
Every
Yeah.
day.
So, and just an immense amount of gratitude for how much of his life he gave to others,
To
to being
activism.
kind.
Yeah. To charity.
Yep.
Whether it's, people or puppies.
Yeah. Yeah, so, talk about queer shit and cuddle some cats today. Gonna do it in honor of him. Um, but yeah, so it felt important to remember that today. Thanks for sharing, Liz.
You're very welcome.
All right. And so today we are going to chat about compulsory heterosexuality, which is often just called comp het for short. And it sounds like this big complicated thing, and what it actually is just the word to just the words or the term to describe a bunch of things that work together to make it feel like heterosexuality is the natural option, the only option, and that anything you feel that indicates not heterosexuality is normal for heterosexuals in order to keep you within the realm of heterosexuality. But I do want to start. So there's a few things I want to start with today. One is these are general and broad terms, and sometimes we'll be talking about them, especially me, in relationship to myself and my own experience. They are not intended to make anyone feel like their experience isn't valid and like they are lying to themselves about their sexuality.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. This is meant to be empowering. And however you experience your sexuality and all of the nuance and spectrum that it is on, and nuance it contains, valid. This
Absolutely
is
valid.
not meant to invalidate anything. So if I'm saying like, oh, I always felt this, turns out that was me lying to myself, you may legitimately feel that way. And that's not you lying to yourself.
Like,
cool.
You are valid. However you feel is valid. We can only speak through the lens of our own experience.
Our own experience and the experience that I have learned. Like, I'm going to talk about some common experiences for people, but that doesn't mean that it's the only way. So just to be really clear,
we're all
because
unique.
Yeah. And because sometimes, now I view it very differently, but sometimes people feel like talking about compulsory heterosexuality is bi erasure. And I'll go into that in a little bit because I don't feel that way. And I believe that like bisexuality, pansexuality, omnisexuality, multiple attraction spectrums are all very, very valid. And I existed on those for a long time, which I'll talk about, but like all super valid. So at no point do I want it to be like, you are not valid. Like you're lying to yourself about being attracted to men. You're actually just a lesbian. That's not what I'm talking about here. And then the other warning, sort of the thing I need to say, is that there's something called, and like in a weird way, in my Twitch world, I'm like the only lesbian that hangs out with us for the most part. Or the only person who identifies as lesbian. But in another part of my life, I have surrounded myself with lesbians. TikTok. Lesbian TikTok, just saying. But don't join lesbian TikTok right now. Something just happened on Monday and it's a shit show. But give it a week because the cycle, and then lesbian TikTok is where it's at.
I'm not in lesbian TikTok, but I know most of the tea.
And so but there is like, it's important to note. Sorry,
I hear a squeak.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I might have to rescue a kitten. We'll see. So lesbian TikTok also is really open about discussing this like lesbian master doc as being not, I don't want to say not great. There's great elements in it, but again, some of the bi erasure stuff, some of the stuff about like, some of it is like really broad sweeping terms that aren't as inclusive or as nuanced. And I just want to be clear that it's like not, these ideas are not seen without some concern, I guess. But that's like, I honestly feel that way about everything, right? Like I'm not ever like wholeheartedly just like I live in shades of gray. And so like everything's nuance. And you can embrace the good.
One of the most critical people I know, and that's amazing. That's a great thing.
So like I just felt it was important to share. I will share the lesbian master doc in WHAQ channels after the show because I think it's important for y'all to see the source material. But the lesbian master doc, which is a Google Doc that's been like circulating the lesbian internet for the last few years, is not all there is. So like, just to be clear, there was an article in an academic journal about compulsory heterosexuality and lesbians in 1980. So like this predates
TikTok
a lot of us. Yeah, like predates TikTok, but like predates me.
No, I know. I'm just
What was the look?
What look?
You just looked. I don't know, you looked concerned about something.
Oh, I was confused about the doc. Can't wait to see it. I've not seen it myself.
Yeah, so the Lesbian Master Doc. And when people come to me and are like, "Hi, I'm 35 and I think I'm a lesbian," I like send them a link. I also like warn them, but I'm like, "Try reading this. This might help you," because it helped me. And also just like lesbian TikTok. Later life, there's like a whole like section of TikTok that is later life lesbians, and a
La
lot
la
of
la
us are
la.
people who realized that we were. A lot of us are women who realized that we were queer during the pandemic, basically. And so it's a lot of people, especially now since it's March and it's like that 3-year anniversary, it's a lot of people being like, here's my femme self married to a man. And 3 years later, I have come out as non-binary and I only date non-men. Like there's like a lot of that happening right now. So it's especially like heartening. But even last night I was pondering how I didn't know I was a lesbian, because like now that I know,
Oh,
but
we saw the
here we
tweets.
are. Compet. So what is compet? Basically, it's a set of stuff that happens in our lives that makes us believe that the way we're feeling about sex, sexuality, and attraction are just the way every straight woman feels. I'm talking about women today because I am a woman. I'm a cis woman, and that is my experience. However, elements of these things are true for people of all genders and of many sexualities. Um, and it's not uncommon for non-binary folks to experience versions of this, and gay men to experience versions of this. And it's nuanced because we receive that messaging differently depending on who we are and what we look like and what people assume is right for us. But it's like this group of things that happens. So for instance, how many people have heard the phrase like, lay back and think of England, in terms of like engaging in sex with men, that women are going to like put up with it and it's not great, but it's our duty and here we go. That is comp het, right?
Lay
That
back and
is
think of
saying like
Canada.
it is totally normal to just like fucking check out when you're having sex with a man. And there's plenty of reasons why you might be checking out, right? Like it might have to do with that individual person. It might have to do with just having ADHD and going elsewhere and your mind wandering, and it's not negative at all. It's just happening. It might have to do with abuse. It might have to do with stress. There's lots of stuff going on. But the idea that when you have sex with your male partner, you just kind of like get it over with, that's not typical female heterosexual attraction. It is not. And like, if that is what's happening, it's because we don't talk about female pleasure. And because we don't talk about female pleasure, women don't learn necessarily that like it's normal to be turned on by your partner, or that's what you should be looking for. If you're looking for sex and you want to engage in sexual relations, the sexual relation should be pleasurable and you should be enjoying it and you should be attracted to the person. And you know what attraction isn't? Attraction isn't, he's a nice guy. Cool.
I feel like there's going
It's
to be
good
lots of
he's a nice
blushing across
guy.
the next hour for me.
Yeah. It's cool that he's a nice guy. And it's okay if, in addition to be attracted to your partner, you feel he's a nice guy. That's great. But like, he's a nice
Bonus.
guy and he does the dishes. And I don't always feel uncomfortable with his penis being near me. Those are not like, those are statements that like have become normalized. And you may feel that way for lots of reasons. You may feel that way because you're not attracted to your partner. You may feel that way because you're asexual. Or demisexual. You may feel that way because things have happened in your life that like cause issues. But we talk about it like it's the universal heterosexual experience. And that's what I'm saying is the issue. We have normalized feeling like sex is fine. We have normalized feeling like what we're looking for is a nice guy who doesn't hurt us. We have normalized
Maintenance
being
sex.
annoyed. Yes, maintenance sex. We have normalized feeling annoyed with our partner 24 hours a day. You get any group of straight women together, and I give it 10 minutes before everyone's bitching about their male partner. And that's a problem. I don't think all of these people are actually lesbians. I'm just saying that this has become so normalized that when lesbians are experiencing it, they don't realize that it's because they're not fucking attracted to men and that they're annoyed by their male partner all the time because they don't want to be with a man. And so what I'm saying is these things that are happening are not because you're engaging in them. It doesn't mean you're gay. But because they're normalized, it becomes really hard to figure out that you're gay.
Yeah.
Or queer, right? This idea that like all women fantasize about other women, not true.
That feels pointed.
Straight women generally don't fantasize about other women. Now, you can identify however you want. If you recognize that, like if you recognize that you fantasize about other women sexually, but want to identify as straight and have attraction to men and that works for you, awesome, do that. But you can't be like, I'm not gay because I fantasize about women. Baby, I got something to tell you.
Hang on. But Cosmo told me.
Yeah.
Which is, Gemma is describing my experience in that. Yeah,
Experience of so many.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like, and I know I've discussed this on WHAQ before, I've discussed this in other places, but that was very much like, oh, yeah, no, I'm straight, but, I've read on the front of a magazine that it's really normal for straight women to fantasize about other women. There we go.
And I
Must
will
be straight.
say that there is like, it's complex because I'm going to talk a little bit about female sexual response. So it feels important to note that there's sort of two types of desire. One is spontaneous desire. It means I'm sitting here and I have desire to engage in sexual relations, not somewhat spontaneously, but not necessarily caused by anything. That's the only type of like horniness we're ever taught about, really. What's actually really common, especially in women, is something called responsive desire. So you don't start horny, but things happen and you get in the mood. That is normal. That's not being coaxed into anything as long as you're like engaging, like wanting it. And you're not broken. That's normal. But female responsive sexual desire is somewhat complicated because women, both trans and cis, are more likely to have responsive desire to a plethora of situations, which can include male porn, and all sorts of things, than cis and trans men are. Might have something to do with testosterone. I don't know. But I think it's actually irrespective of hormone replacement therapy as well. So it's a bit more complicated because it is more common for women to find lesbian sex a turn on, even if they see themselves as straightish. Cool. It is more complicated. However, those things make it complicated to see that like you're into women. Another thing that's really common is for women to have like this idealized man, which doesn't mean masculine, feminine, any particular traits, but this idealized man in a fictional character. And that fictional man that they are attracted to is proof that they're not gay. And it's actually part of conditioning where like you are always on the lookout for like the prime partner. You're
The
looking for the
perfect
male
mate.
partner who's going to take care of you because you are taught this, you are socialized to believe this. And like if that person was in front of you, you wouldn't be into them. And it's also really common for queer women who are denying their queerness to like when they are attracted to a man or feel they are attracted to a man, the minute he's attracted to you, things get really complicated and you're not into him anymore. Suddenly he's clingy. Suddenly he's not as cute as you thought he was. Suddenly he's annoying. Suddenly you don't like him. Oh, I really thought he was great. And oh, no. That is compet playing out. Because what has happened is like you are following the script. You are following the
followed
script.
the
You are following the
formula
script.
and didn't get to the right answer. Like,
And then
the
the
right
answer is
sum.
making you uncomfortable. Oh boy. That's compet playing out. That's like I'm following the heteronormativity script and like, oh shit, my something in me is saying that this is not good. That's like another, and like again, there are lots of reasons why these things can happen. Fear of intimacy happens across genders and across sexualities and can be caused by many things. And what that might be is fear of intimacy, not just compet. But because these things are happening, women are taught not to listen to their own bodies. Like, I remember having a conversation with someone when they were like, I just now realized that we talk about people being hot because when we get turned on, we get flush. And I haven't experienced that. And I'm like, yes, that is a sign that like you're not experiencing
I've never made that connection
type
before.
of attraction. You did say this, Monty. I didn't want to call you out though, because I didn't want to name you, but like it was you. Yes. And so, and like that's fun. Like the other thing is like demisexuality exists and responsive desire exists. So again, like it's happening for lots of reasons, not just because you're like pretending you're not gay, but because these things are common, it's hard to figure out that you're queer. And another thing that's really common is like later life lesbianism, basically because the drive, once you like have your kids and you've like followed the script, and maybe it was fine. Like maybe you did want to have kids and you got with your male partner and you did the wedding and the dog and the babies and all of that stuff. Great. And now that that sort of script part is ended and it's just the next 40 years of you and this guy, there's like a moment where you're like,
It's like you finished a book and you don't know what to do with yourself afterwards. Like,
yep, yeah.
now all
And
the
that's
characters
why,
are gone.
yeah. But like you did the thing, you got the kid, and now you're realizing like, I wanted children. And a lot of these like later life lesbians love their children and wanted children and actively pursued children and still love their children, but are realizing like I followed the script, got the kids, love the kids. It would be better to be single.
Yeah,
Um,
now what?
and so many of them have amazing male partners. Like I'm actually in a TikTok war, comment war with someone, because it's now become common for men to get on later life lesbian TikTok and comment about how their husbands, their former husbands and male partners must be saints or negative terms about them. Because trigger warning for violence. If that happened to them, they just kill the woman. And so I go out of my way to find these people
Christ on a
and
bike.
comment and call them shit and like call them out. And like I go to all of these TikToks to like argue with these people in the comments to try to like get, because it's like really, it's like toxic masculinity everywhere, talking about how, if a woman did that to me, there would be no other, she wouldn't be on TikTok to talk about it. The red flags wave themselves. And so
Right.
I argue on TikTok until 2 a.m. with these people just to make sure that they like get slapped back a bit, right? Like, I don't think it's actually going to do anything, feed the trolls, da da da. However, it's common and I just feel the need to stick up for these women. But that's like, we all sort of like hang out and talk about our former male partners. Now, in my case, it's a little weird because all of my like former male partners are also formerly male. So like I've dated a lot of eggs. I've dated a lot of trans folks, which should have been a sign. But and I say formerly male because I just need to be really clear that I'm not like misgendering anyone. Jackie, who you all know and many of you love, is a trans woman who identifies as formerly male. Like she really her gender identity developed over time. She is not someone who felt like she was trapped in a male body. Her gender changed as my sexuality did. Like it's just so like I'm not misgendering, just to be clear. And like there's a lot of us who love our former male partners, who have good relationships with them. It was nothing about them. Just turned out that that wasn't what we were looking for anymore. And for some women it develops. Like I struggle a little bit because I truly believe I was attracted to men, and not just in a compet way, although I do think that I believe I have been homo romantic virtually my whole adult life. I believe that I have been romantically into women and non-binary folks for the majority. And what has shifted is actually my sexual attraction. And I am now at a point where like I see myself as like agnostic towards sex with men. Like it's fine. I'm not repulsed by it.
It's all right.
I also don't desire it. And I also can't imagine like anything outside of sex with men, like anything outside of the sex, like the friend, yeah, sure. Like I'm not anti-male at all, at all, at all. But like I did experience sexual attraction to men, and that has shifted as I've gotten older. I think part of it may have been the hormone stuff with like as a lot of you know, I tried to have a baby for a long time and all of that stuff. So I think like that's played into it. But it's complicated because for me, when I was a child, I distinctly remember my father telling me I needed to lose weight or no man would ever find me attractive. And this sits really deeply in me because the goal wasn't no one will find you attractive. And to be clear, my dad's best friend at the time was a lesbian. So it wasn't like we were living in this world where no one recognized same-sex attraction.
Where queer people didn't exist,
Where queer people didn't exist. I've got a gay uncle. Like there were queer people in my family. And I was very much told that like the goal was to find a man. I was smart. I was good in school. I was talented. I was creative. I was all of these things. And unless I was the subject of male desire, I was not achieving anything.
Yep.
And it was very clearly male desire. So when you're taught that, it also means that you can seek out male desire. And for much of my life, I have wanted to receive male desire. I still really enjoy men finding me attractive. You know, it's a little complicated for me because I'm also a dominant, have been involved in the femdom scene and stuff like that. But let me tell you the aha moment I had when I realized how much I enjoy rejecting men.
And that's when I
Yes.
realised the subtle differences.
Yes. In fact, I am gentle. I am not mean. And Liz has watched me reject men and be very, very kind and very gentle to these men. But the relief I feel as I reject them is fucking real.
She's too patient most of the time.
And like, I am kind. Some of them are terrible.
Block.
And I still am like, yeah, Liz thinks I should block them. I try to like educate them. But the relief I feel as I reject them is real. Gem, you're a dyke. Like,
oh,
that's why you feel relief.
Do you remember when we were talking about
reject them?
Printing t-shirts, WHAQ t-shirts? Gem, you're a dyke.
But I still feel like I recognize I'm gay, and I still enjoy male attraction because I've been coded to believe that's some version of winning, especially as a fat woman. Because things intersect, right? So yeah, so I think that's part of it. And like another key like comp het thing is like when you find a woman who says things like, I like a lot of women and my male partner. My male partner's the only man I'm attracted to. My friend.
You
That might be
sure?
true. That might be true.
Might
That
be.
might be true. And if it's true for you, I really celebrate you because the whole spectrum exists. The whole spectrum exists. But you're closer to being gay than you think you are. I'm not saying you're not attracted to your husband, and I'm not saying your relationship doesn't work. Have at it. If you're happy, I'm happy for you. But a lot of us who've said those things later have moments when we are like, that was a sign. My only job is to stay attractive to my husband. Yep. That messaging.
That's wild, huh?
And like, there's this meme that goes around sometimes where the premise is something like, my best friend came out to her mom as a lesbian, and her mom cried and said, what are you going to do if you need someone to open a pickle jar? And it's hilarious to this person because that's what she envisions. Like, how are you going to get by without a man? And it's not like, what are you going to do? Like, it's very much the like, yeah, see, Amanda's seen it, right? Like there's
But mom, I am a pickle jar.
but because this is the exchange that we're taught, right? We're taught women exchange sex and affection for the man
For
that we
pickles.
cannot survive in the world without. We can't open our pickle jars, we can't get a job, we can't have a baby, we can't do any of that stuff that we want to do. So we exchange. And like, that, my friend, is a bartering system, not a relationship.
You receive maintenance sex. I receive DIY.
Yeah, like, so, and there's lots of reasons this happens. I'm not saying that like all of these women who are in these situations are secretly gay or denying themselves or and bisexuality exists, but like, that's the message, that's the world we live in that complicates the realization of queerness. And like, my goodness, like, I just, like, even lesbianism, like, I'm gonna have like lesbian sex, and my husband gets to watch, and it's good for both of us because it turns him on too. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on with female sexuality where it is performative for the male gaze, and it has taught us weird shit about how we interpret our own desire is basically what I'm saying. And that makes it really hard to recognize that you're gay.
For sure.
And also because you're taught that, like, as women, you can't have a lot of the things you want to have without men. And I don't just mean open pickle jars. I mean financial security. I mean, like, for a long time, women couldn't get pensions and so depended on their husband's pension when they got older. Just can't get a job, can't get a credit card. Women in the 70s couldn't get credit cards, right? Like, so, like, there's so many of these things that create this situation where you are willing to or have to deny your sexuality in order to exist in the world, basically. And that's true for all women, regardless of sex, like, that they have sexuality, that they have to like give up stuff because they are dependent on men. But that is the dynamic, which makes it damn near impossible to figure out you're actually gay because you're denying all sorts of things. If you're like, if it doesn't matter if you're attracted to your husband, regardless of your sexuality, do you even try to think about your sexuality?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Jinx said. My mom would have lost her job. Like, you can't, for a long time, women couldn't survive. And like, it's different for gay men. They also had shit. They also had so much shit they had to go through. not denying that at all. But a man is still allowed to get a job generally.
Yeah.
Now, gay men who were out experienced extreme prejudice. I would never
Minimize that.
deny that.
Yeah.
But you can suffer from queer discrimination while also benefiting from male privilege, and you can suffer from queer discrimination while also suffering from non-binary and female women prejudice as well, right? Like the negatives there. Like there's layers at which we're talking about that can just make it more complicated for women and can make it more complicated especially for like non-white folks. I think one of the things that we don't talk enough about is that so much of the achievement of like if you want to be seen as good as your white neighbors, you cannot deviate from the norm
Yep.
at all. And let me tell you, the norm is heterosexuality. Your job is to play the role of the perfect family so that you maybe can get away with being Indian in middle America.
Yep. You can't have multiple things wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, just be as normal as you can be, and don't let the things that can be hidden slip. Can't hide your skin
Yes.
color, but you can hide the rest.
And that's exactly it, right? Whereas like sexuality is one of the things that we can push down and in many ways are expected to. Like Moni and I had a good rant earlier today about like the way the church has repressed sexuality and especially female sexuality in order to further an agenda of the patriarchy and power. And it also means that like women, like if you don't talk about like female pleasure, and if female pleasure is actually awful, then the best thing you can do is enter into a relationship where you don't feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's the godly thing, which is fucked up, right? But it's also why covenants are full of queer women, because if you can't get by, if you can't stomach being with a man and it's really not going to work for you, go live with a bunch of women.
Yep. Get to avoid it.
Another like compet like playing out thing is when people say things like my retirement plan is to like retire with all my girlfriends. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's not necessarily a bad thing, and I really value straight female friendship and female friendship outside of sexuality. Absolutely. But if your dream is a world without men,
You get to dump
that
all of
might
the men in your life, including the husband that you have to have sex with. Yeah.
again, but like because it's so normal, but like one of the reasons why women envision these worlds without men. Now, life expectancy is part of it, but also like to be without oppression and stuff like that. So when all women are oppressed, it means queer women have less opportunity to figure out who they are
Mm-hmm.
because it's normalized, right? So like again, I don't think all of the Golden Girls were gay. That's not what I'm saying. But a world in which that's the only way we can imagine to be free, it becomes normal to imagine that the way you envision freedom is to not be shackled by a dude.
Yeah. Just waiting for you to die, dear.
But yeah, so I think, you know, and even just things like comp het makes it especially hard for femme women to figure out that they're gay. Because we adhere to so much of what we're supposed to do as women, and the world has tied together gender expression and sexuality in ways that are super unhealthy.
Yeah.
And it means that the women who can't pass as straight women are forced out of the closet, sometimes even when they're straight, like tomboys getting forced out of the closet and having to like actually defend that they're actually attracted to men, right? Like it's fucked up in lots of ways for lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
But it means that like femme women, like the times that men have told me in the past 2 years when I've turned them down, what a waste it is, what a shame it is that I'm not into men. I'm such a waste. It's such a waste. You could be so good for a man. It's such a waste. You want to know what's a waste? what's fucking talking to me? That's what's a waste.
Waste of
my
breath.
time, waste of oxygen, waste of space. But like, it's not an insignificant number of times that men have told me the fact that I identify as a lesbian is like a shame. It's a waste. I could really be good for a man. It's a waste. Like, it's a shame that this like pretty face is going to waste, or my great ass is going to waste. Like, it's not an insignificant number. Like, it's at least more than I can put on my fingers. And I've been in an exclusive relationship this whole time. Like,
Yeah. There's lots of people in chat talking about the tomboy point, and that's something that I think, on top of everything else, made it really hard for me to work things out for myself as well, because growing up I was very much a tomboy. Hated anything that was seen as girly or femme, and everyone was like, my family were like, oh, she must be gay. And like, actually, I wasn't, as a teen, I wasn't really attracted to anyone. And, because I didn't go home and talk about boys every evening, because I refused to wear dresses, because I didn't want to wear pink, this persona was forced on me, which I'm sure has probably played into everything else and into me coming out later in life. And yeah, trying to make sense of it all.
but when, like, these stories that Jinx is telling and you're telling and Yuffie's telling around, like, being told to act a certain way in terms of feminine, masculine sort of stuff, like, there's this, like, if you're trying to figure out how to be accepted as a woman already, like, your sexuality becomes so fraught, right? Where, like, I believe that part of the reason it took you a while to come out is you spent so long trying to convince people that you weren't gay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fucking difficult.
Because
like,
of who you were, like, not because of feelings, but because of your, like, you didn't want to wear a dress.
Yeah, like, it probably, because I spent so long defending that, I subconsciously convinced myself that I wasn't, because I've had to spend so much time being like, no, 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 not into girls. Like, yeah.
And
for sure.
because everyone here in chat, like, I know the relative age of everyone, etc., grew up in a world where we fought lesbian was a slur,
Yeah.
and we were always trying to convince everyone we weren't a dyke, that it almost feels like defeat when you realize that you're a little bit gay. Whether it's bisexual, whether it's whatever, whether it's pansexual, whether it is lesbian, whatever. There's also this, like, sense of, like, I had to fight so long to be allowed to take up space, that then when you're trying to sort things out later, because you were forced into a box so early, you were forced into being defensive so early,
I'm having the saddest light bulb moment.
that, like, it feels a little bit like defeat. And it also feels like you're letting other people win when you start to wonder, which is fucked up, right? And, like, it's not just true of, like, queerness that way, but also, like, sexuality stuff, right? So, like, if you're trying to force people to believe that you are sexually desirable because that is the box you're trying to fit in, when you realize that maybe sex isn't what you're interested in, or you're demisexual and only want sex with certain people, etc., it can feel like defeat, because you've tried to fit the box for so long, and they weren't trying to tell you to explore yourself and figure out who you were. They were trying to insult you into conforming.
Wow, I didn't think this episode was about me personally. But that's totally just clicked, right? Going all the way through my educational career, hearing lesbian, dyke as a slur, oh my god, that's so gay, ugh, shut up, you fucking lesbian, like, all of that stuff, to be like, no, I'm not those things, because people are telling me it's wrong, to then get to the point where I'm like, shit, I am that thing that everyone hated back then. It's painful. That's fully just like, I've just had a penny drop.
If you are spending so much energy fighting against people using terms against you as insults or calling you things or like telling you things like Yuffie's saying about stepdad saying that she was sleeping with all her guy friends, and Debs as well, and like all of this like Jinx, you know, knowing her mom was gay but of course she's not kind of stuff, like, and defending the fact that like she's not going to have to be gay because her mom is, and that like, you know, her mom can be gay and raise any kind of child, like all of this stuff. When you are always reacting to the external, you do not have time to figure out the internal. And it starts so young that is the norm. It is the norm. And when you come to these moments of like needing to figure out what's going on the inside, those voices have been on the outside for a very long time, and they don't just go away. And we can say, we
far
can
longer
sit here
than the
and
voices on the inside. Yeah.
Your internal, like this, I'm going to get back to this, but I swear this is relevant. In the expat community from North America in the UK, we often talk about when did your internal monologue start to have the cadence and the accent of the world you now live in. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because the external is internalized always. Amanda, I love you so much. Amanda doesn't experience internal monologue,
which is wild in itself, but different podcast.
And like, I need to like be clear. Like, once I was trying to explain that to Liz, and I said something like, well, you know, Amanda doesn't have a lot like going on, like and I didn't mean you don't have thoughts going on. I mean, like, you don't have an internal monologue, and I was trying to explain it, and I was
phrasing.
I was like, that's not what I mean. And Liz was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, she doesn't have an internal monologue. And Liz didn't know that. So she was like, just thinking I was like wildly insulting you when I was trying to be like, no. Amanda externally processes like I do. But it's partially because she doesn't have the internal monologue. And I was trying to explain that. Anyway, Amanda, I love you. And it was not at all intended as an insult. And Liz was so insulted on your behalf. Just to say.
Oh, Yuffie, anyway. What a mood. Mine doesn't shut the fuck up.
So anyway, the expat community. But Amanda, I have an internal monologue and I externally process as much as you do. So like, it's for true. Real, like, it's okay. I promise. But anyway, all to say that like we talk about like when does the internal monologue take on the accent, and when does see Tom, that's yeah, okay. Anyway, but we do talk about like when, and do you notice, is it sudden? Does it happen over time? When does the accent start to sink into your internal monologue? But I really think that that's like important to realize when we talk about the messaging we receive too. Like, if we can have conversations about literally at 40, our internal monologue shifting to have an accent that we weren't exposed to in our day-to-day life for 40 years. And it happens in months. Most of us say things like 6 months it starts, 12 months it's the norm. By 2 years, the internal monologue is entirely the other accent. And if it takes 2 years for my internal monologue to shift vernacular after 40 years, what does 40 years of fucking external conditioning do? How much of your internal voice is from that, right?
Mm-hmm. And Moni has brought up an excellent point there. Like, you can't be what you can't see, particularly in a world that tells you what you have to be.
Yep. And so
that's another t-shirt. You can't be what you can't see.
Yep. But it's true, right? So if you don't know that these things are even possibilities, how do you figure out that that's what the feelings inside of you are pointing towards? And that's what the compulsory heterosexuality and heteronormativity are. It's this idea that nothing else is presented. There's only one way forward. And no matter what's going on inside, You don't get access to other choices. You don't get access to even knowing about it. And that's why when we're trying to control people, we take away sex ed, we take away queer rep, we take away other pictures of how things can be. And the people who are extremists will say we're taking away the devil's influence, because what they actually know is that learning that other options are there make you much less pliable as a human and much harder to control. And that's where the compulsory comes in. There are straight people, and that is awesome for them. And I hope that they are like enjoying life, right? Like I don't have any issue with that. But I hope everyone gets the option to actually figure out if that's what feels inside them, like if that's what feels right.
Yeah.
And the reason why we talk about so much with compet and lesbians is because women's sexuality is way more controlled than men's, and in different ways. Women's pleasure, women's autonomy, and that plays into figuring out that you're queer. And then when we talk about female sexuality and we talk about female pleasure, it's through the male gaze.
Yeah.
It's who you can,
And that's even
please.
Without the additional layer of like hormones, like any additional hormones that we're putting in our body, any hormones that we might be lacking due to medical conditions or whatever. Like,
It's complex for sure.
Like coming off of your birth control and then being really, really into women rather than just a little bit.
Yep. And Jinx says, I think often about how the world taught me to turn off my sexuality very early. And that's true, right? Like even when, like, here's a good example. And we've talked about this before, but like, I'm just going to bring it up again. When women are, when schoolgirls are told not to wear short shorts because, you don't want to attract the boys, or you do want to attract the boys,
don't want to distract the boys. Yeah.
The way you control yourself is entirely about male desire. Encouraging, discouraging. I mean, how many of us, like, again, trigger warning for talk of like unhealthy childhood sexuality, potential sexual assault, etc. Like how many people grew up, say, like in households where it was your weird Uncle Bill is coming over, you need to put more clothes on.
It's ridiculous. Like there's literally, I read something in the news today where a child got sent home from school for making a male teacher feel awkward with what she was wearing because, in his opinion, it looked like lingerie. She was in a long-sleeved t-shirt with a vest over the top, and the vest had some lace on it. Like, are you okay?
Lace, the material that we make christening and baptism gowns out of. Yeah.
Wild.
Life is fucked. D says that he was only raised and shown a heterosexual world, so didn't know a life beyond straight. Like that is it, right? Like, and I think too, like if all of it is about, if your whole job is to control how other people see you, everything becomes about making the outside be one thing and ignoring the inside. And we're just taught to ignore our internal messaging, our internal cues. We're taught to turn off our bodies. Finish what you eat. Finish everything on your plate. Doesn't matter that you're not hungry. You're going to eat what I put in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter that you don't want to do this. It doesn't matter that you don't want to do that. You're going to wear what I tell you to. You're going to eat what I tell you to. You don't get to go to the bathroom in the middle of class if you need to go. You got to hold it. Ignore everything in your body. And then when you turn 20, continue to ignore everything, but do that to other people now.
Yeah.
Do that to the next generation.
Yeah. And like, yeah. Ugh.
I get so frustrated because we condition children to ignore everything in their bodies and then are like, oh my goodness, Why didn't they tell us that they were being bullied, that they were being sexually assaulted, that they were developing eating disorders, that they were any of this stuff, right? Like, how are we shocked that we teach children to ignore everything that happens in them, all their feelings? Don't cry. I cannot be told to this day, don't cry, because that was my mom's like thing. The minute it looked like I was crying, it was don't cry or I'll make you stop crying.
Don't cry, I'll
And
give you something
so
to cry about. That's the British version.
that's a Canadian version too. But my mom didn't care if I had something to cry about. If I cried, I was a problem.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I cry now so much. Because when I turned 20 or so, I just decided, like, fuck that shit. I'm just crying when I need to. But, like, ignore everything in your body. Ignore absolutely everything that your body tells you. Don't be upset. Don't express frustration. Eat everything. Eat things you don't like. Eat, eat, eat. Don't eat. Don't go to the bathroom. Hold it. Contain, contain, contain. And then when we turn
Hold your
off
piss.
all
Don't piss
of
yourself. Yeah.
and then when we turn off all sense of what's actually happening inside of us and don't understand how to interpret any of our body's cues, we're all like, why didn't you tell me you were being bullied? Why didn't you tell me you were being assaulted? Why didn't you tell me you were feeling uncomfortable? Because you've made me feel uncomfortable for 15 years. That's why. Apparently that was the stoic thing when it was with you.
Yeah.
And
You told
then
me not
people
to
are shocked and
deviate, and
don't
now you're
realize,
telling me to? Yeah.
right? But that's it. And then we're all shocked when we figure out we're gay, when we're like fucking or asexual or whatever, trans, when we're
Identity here.
older,
Yeah.
because it's taken us that long to figure out that we can listen to our body and it might not be wrong. Our existence might not be wrong.
Imagine trusting yourself and not what, the man tells you. Yep.
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 And so comp het is this like complex system of heteronormativity that makes it really hard to figure out that you're gay. And it especially happens with women, but it happens with everyone. Like, it's part of the reason why figuring out you're gay is so devastating to a lot of people, or to some, less so maybe now, but to a lot of people. And like, yes, we worry about rejection, we worry about all that, but the internalized homophobia, the internalized homonegativity, and the internalized heteronormativity is real.
It fucks you up. Like, from experience, it fucks you up.
Yep. And we spend so much time as gay people telling people it's not a phase that we also have decided that sexuality is not fluid anymore, which is wild to me. Because we spend so much time being like, it's not a phase, it's not a phase, being trans isn't a phase, da da da. It's true for most of us, it's not for almost everyone, it's not a phase, but it does shift, right? Like, there are pro-trans people who have detransitioned because their gender identity, they're still figuring it out.
It could be a phase. Like, and that's okay. We're allowed to explore and we're allowed to learn and we're allowed to live in a way that feels authentic at that moment in time.
And you are allowed to make choices that you believe are the right choice now. And you are allowed to live now in a way that feels good to you. And you're also allowed to keep growing as a person.
Here, here.
And I don't, because I'm cis and because we're both cis, I don't want to say too much about the trans detransition piece. But it's one of the things that frustrates me the most about the TERFs taking hold of the detransition narrative, which is this idea that, like, once you come out as trans, it never shifts again. Like, you've like found your true gender identity and now it is solid. When, like, gender exploration and gender expression and all of that can shift over time lots of times, right? And like, we actually hear stories, especially from the non-binary community, of people who knew that they weren't feeling right in their assigned gender at birth, and felt forced to transition fully one way or another because only a couple boxes were shown to them.
Yeah.
And it's taken some time to
Take your
figure out
pick.
where they exist, or if gender maybe isn't even a thing for them. Like maybe the stress on gender is actually what's not working for them. Maybe they want to be agender, or maybe they feel agender, maybe they are agender. There's lots of ways to look at it, or like outside the gender binary. Like there's so many fluidities there that, again, like, it's wild to me that when we present a narrow group of options and people don't fit in them, we're like shocked.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the reasons it bugs me that the TERFs have taken hold of the detransition narrative is because they've made it proof that trans affirming care is bad. When in reality, what people need is gender affirming care in all ways. Cis women need gender affirming
Well, I
care.
was going to
Trans
say
women need
that's
gender affirming care.
it's a whole fucking thing in itself, right? You know, like people, you know, when the narrative is when TERFs and the gender critical don't want people to medically transition, but fucking cis male millionaire gets to get his extra testosterone because it makes him feel better and it allows him to grow a beard. Like, that's okay, but that one isn't. Like, it just...
Yeah.
Let's take
So
away
I
gender
think,
affirming
like,
care apart from, you know, from those with privilege.
yeah, I mean, it's the same as like fertility treatments and all sorts of stuff, right? Like there's so many things that are like it's hypocritical. But anyway, all of that to say that, like, it is, yes, Jinx, like men and Viagra, like prescriptions like candy, right? Like, wild to me. And women are still like, I would like to not poison myself with birth control. Can we look at like hormonal birth control because I have these really negative responses to it? Can we try other options? No. But
Yep,
there are other
literally,
options.
like,
Yes, not for you.
legit, over the, you know, get Viagra over the counter now. Like, wild. And it's the, I mean, it's the whole argument about, you know, if male birth control was a thing, you know, and all the shit that...
But I just want to go back to say that, like, it is legit to call yourself bisexual if that label works for you and you're attracted to one man and 800 women. Cool. You're valid. I am not saying that you're lying to yourself. No. Compulsory heterosexuality and talking about the ways it forces is about external voices telling you what you are, and encouraging you to listen
Yeah.
to the internal voices. So I just really want to, like, emphasize that, like,
Hammer that home.
omnisexuality exists, that there's like nuance and all of that. And if at no point is this meant to be by erasure. I really, like, obviously, like, I'm marrying a pansexual woman.
Wait, what?
But like, I really, like, it's very, very valid. I just really don't want anyone to come away from this being like, Gemma's saying that everyone who thinks they're bi is just lying to themselves, and that's like not it.
That
That's
ain't
not
it.
it.
That ain't it.
And that discovering your sexuality later in life is not a failure of anything but society's failure of you. That, like, somewhere along the way, you were not allowed to explore yourself. And at whatever time you are able to listen to yourself, it is valid. It's never too late. Never too late to come out. It's never too late to shift. It's never too late to listen to yourself. It's never too late to find joy. It's never too late to tell labels to go fuck themselves. It's never too late to embrace a new label. It's never too late to embrace a label that once made you uncomfortable. It's never too late to like biff a label that makes you uncomfortable now. It's not too late. Yeah.
I love it when you say biff. We are friends in real life, Jinx. But it's not the simulation right now.
But I do know what you mean,
Yeah.
Jinx. Like there are times when I'm like, my Twitch bubble is the bubble that I love, and like sometimes when I go in like in the outside,
The what?
I have these weird moments of like, fuck, I forgot this is what the mainstream is like. Like I forgot that like I recently chatted with someone and I love this. I dated this woman, to be clear. Love her, still a really good friend of mine.
What have I done?
She got married a number of years ago now to a man. And they've got 2 beautiful girls. And she's like, when I dated her, and in her subsequent relationships and previous relationships, this man she married is the only man she's ever been with. She's very happy. And she's like, I identified as a lesbian, and I guess I just used to be a lesbian. And I'm like, I'm not going to say her name because I don't, like, I follow her on social media and stuff. But I was like, babes, like, you're just, like, you're still queer. Like, if you're still attracted to women and stuff, like, you don't have to just be like, I guess now I'm straight because I married a man. And she's like, yeah, but, I'm, like, with a man now and we're monogamous, like, da-da-da. And I was like, marrying a man doesn't determine your sexuality. And so she was like, I guess I am bisexual. And I was like, is that how you feel? And she's like, well, yeah, I'm really into women. And I'm like, okay. Like, and it just was this moment of me being like, you're almost 40. You've got 2 kids. You're married to a dude. You've been like with a bunch of women. And society's still telling you that like you ended your tryst with women. And now that you're like with a dude,
it's like she's falling back into the comp het, right? Like,
but I think that's part of it, right? Like she got back on the script, and everyone, good.
Whew, saved another one, gang. Woof.
Yep. Yes, exactly, Jinx. She got better. And Amanda, who's bi, says, being with a man doesn't erase my bisexuality. Exactly. And so like sometimes, and like, I don't know how to explain, like she is, like, she's not, like this friend I'm talking about, like she's
Sorry,
not,
I'm laughing at the call out. Amanda's too into boobs.
Yeah. Like she's not sheltered. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like she has a very full life, and she is, but like in the mainstream, it's still just very normalized, right? The other thing I want to point out is the like pipeline of like, I am just a really good queer ally.
Shut up. Stop that now.
Because it's like, it's in the master document, but it's something like, like one of the questions we ask when we talk about comp het in the later, when we're talking to women who are like, oh, I think I might be a lesbian, or might be queer, whatever, is like, were you just a really good ally, but like really felt personally involved in all these queer stories? Did queer stories resonate with you more? Did you look at your queer friends and wish that you could have what they have?
No.
Because that's a sign.
Yeah. Like,
oh my God, Yofi, that's amazing.
The good ally to queer pipeline for me was just as strong as the carries a backpack constantly to severe anxiety pipeline.
Yep. But I do think, like,
are we getting a booby shower curtain? Sorry. Yofi
sure.
Just said a friend
we don't
has
need a shower curtain right now, but
well, not currently. Although we could put it in the backdrop behind us for WHAQ.
Twitch doesn't like boobs.
They're not real boobs. Anyway, continue.
Even cartoon boobs. Anyway. Yeah, just like I'm a really good queer ally. I promise I'm not queer. That's absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible to be straight and be a really queer ally and not be part of the quilt bag. However, you might be demi, you might be ace, you might be pan, you might be a little bit gay, you might be a little bit trans, you might be non-binary. I'm just saying that if you really internalize all these queer stories and like really fight for it and you're the ally, but also like these stories affect you personally and you feel like you're part of the family, you are. No matter what the answer to, am I queer might be, you are. Allies, straight allies are really important. But maybe if it's impacting you that emotionally, it's speaking to an unmet need in your life.
Yeah.
Or maybe you feel seen by that group. Or maybe you have a lot in common and are recognizing that.
Yeah. I just had some really good role models in my life that happened to be queer also, you know? I was looking for my booby notebook and then remembered that it's not my channel, so I wasn't going to show it. But someone say something in the channel in Discord and I'll show you my booby notebook.
But yeah, I think again, like it's all really valid. Like however you feel inside is really valid.
Yeah.
But there are just these common things that like make us do a little and like again, I try not to talk too much about sex on Geek Herring because it's Geek Herring's channel. But I will say that there's this like I'm just gonna say one thing about sex and like the amount of later life lesbians who are like, I only like it from behind with men. And then like or like that's my preference is from behind. There's like a real pipeline there too. Just saying.
Because you don't have to look at them.
I don't want eye contact. I don't want to look at the guy. Like,
pretend
it's
that it's
okay
not
if that's
happening.
your favorite position.
I'm thinking
It's
of
okay if
England
that's
just
your
not on my back.
position. No matter what, that's cool. But I'm just saying that there's some commonalities here. Just
Bend over and think of England. Yeah, someone has dropped their ball. It's rolling around chat.
So yeah. And I know I've said this a million times. I just want to be really clear that I'm not saying the only option is that you're gay if any of these things are true for you. I'm just saying that like so many of us have had these moments and been like,
oh shit.
So
One
if any
might be
of this
happening
is
right
like,
now.
yeah, fair, Monty, fair. I don't like to, however we're comfortable, you do you. But yeah, so just and like to sum up, I just want to say that like compulsory heterosexuality is damaging to literally everyone, including heterosexual people, because it does not allow for people to listen to themselves
or express themselves. Like, sorry.
But yes, so like, but I think like in order to express yourself, you first have to listen to yourself. You can't get to externalizing the thing unless you realize that it's happening.
Oh, I mean, I was reflecting on the many people in chat who were just like, I was a tomboy too, and you know, XYZ. Like, it affects everyone.
Yes. Well, because it is a system that is meant to be about control. It is about controlling the expression, the relationships, and the structures within society. And so it is not good for anyone. In the same way that toxic masculinity is not good for men either. And so this has been really important for me because I really felt like I was not living according to society's script in a lot of ways. And I wasn't. But because I was living in a world that had certain messaging, even I was misinterpreting some of the things that was happening for me. And even I was struggling. Like, I mourned coming out as a lesbian for two reasons. One is valid and one is societally created. I actually have some sadness about some of the crushes I used to have. I used to fucking love Nick Offerman. And Nick Offerman is an amazing. Now, this is maybe like also falling in the like I like celebrities, the unattainable man, whatever. But Nick Offerman's just like, from what I know, just like a great guy. And he's funny and he's all these things. And interestingly enough, not physically my type at all as a man when I was attracted to men, but I just loved Nick Offerman. And the day I looked at him and realized that I just thought, like, what a great guy, and no longer said things like, I've got such a crush on Nick Offerman, I mourned a little bit. And that's valid. I think it's really valid and good to recognize that with change comes grief and all of this stuff. And what it meant to me was like, Nick Offerman, one, seems like a great guy, but also like was in a way a bit of a healing thing where like for a long time, the like rugged bearded white dude was someone I regarded as the enemy. And seeing a really great guy, seemingly, again, like you don't know him, but like seems like a great guy who like builds canoes and does all of this stuff. And like I'm geographically in an area that is very big on the canoe and riverways and all sorts of things. So he would come to my town and stuff like that. So like it was just like this really nice. He's written a few books. He narrates his own books, his audiobooks. He was just really nice, gentle masculinity, non-toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And realizing that what I had interpreted as a crush was actually me just finally feeling safe with a guy, even if I didn't know him. There was a lot of complicated feelings there. But I also mourned and was scared to come out as a lesbian because it was giving up the dream of male desire and saying no to it outright. And that was tough because of that messaging I had my whole life around how being desired by men was what made me a badass bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggle with that still. And I struggle to admit it, especially on a public forum, because I'm better than that and I'm stronger than that and I know better than that and my worth isn't in men, and all of that is true. But coming out and living my truth, which included finally letting go of that,
saying goodbye with that narrative,
but it included recognizing that that actually impacted me. And I actually held that. There was like, it was hard.
For what it's worth,
hard. And
you are absolutely a badass bitch.
I appreciate that. But yeah, it's been a journey, and it's been a hard one. It's been a good one. But yeah, Jadzia, I feel it. Like it's just, you know, but it's hard even to admit that like that was valued to me and that I would ever consider like not being open about who I am in order to still have some social cachet kind of thing at 38 and being very confident and all of this stuff. But like, it's just real. I'm just being real. Dawn. But yeah.
Sorry, there's a siren outside.
No, it's okay. We live right on a main street there. But yeah, so anyway, just it's been a journey, and it's one of the reasons why, to come full circle, lesbian TikTok has meant so much to me, later life lesbian. And to be clear, later life does not just mean like 40 plus. It means anyone who like was at some point recognizing themselves as not lesbian and then do, right? Like some of the later life lesbians are still in their 20s, but they lived in het relationships and things like that in ways that like it's not a denote like middle age or plus. It's not age that way. It's like development. Like I'm on the pathway of recognizing it, not at 14.
Mm-hmm. Everyone's just having a collective dribble over an actor in chat. Don't worry.
Yeah, I know. No, it's okay. It's
I
great.
thought you were scanning like.
No, I
happening?
was enjoying Ton's reactions to things. I mean, I'm enjoying everyone's reactions, but Ton's comment about being a Kinsey 5 really like tickled my pickle.
Mm-hmm. I get the reference.
I'll do you want me to explain it?
Yeah.
So the Kinsey
No, I
scale
said I
of
get it.
Oh,
No joke.
the Kinsey scale of sexuality is like a 1 to 6, and 1 is exclusively heterosexual, or sorry, yes, exclusively heterosexual, and 6 is exclusively homosexual. And then it's like the gradients in between. And Ton is making a joke about like maybe I'm not a 6, maybe I'm a 5.
Sophie Hagen spoke about this on their podcast one time. Yes. Thank you. And thank you.
One
You
of the
benefited
things,
more than just me too, so appreciated.
it's like it's a great starting point and something that's like really like commonly talked about in lots of circles. However, because it's also just like heterosexual, homosexual without any, not any allowance, but like doesn't speak to asexuality, demisexuality, also doesn't speak to the difference between sexual attraction and romantic interest. And some people would even say doesn't speak to monogamy versus polyamory and things like that. There's other scales that people have picked up to use more commonly when talking about it, but the Kinsey scale is like
OG,
the
the one
one
that's referenced.
when like that 1950s and 60s explosion of studying sex in academia happened. Kinsey was laying it down with the Kinsey scale and was one of the first people to like really in science validate bisexuality in that way in modern science, sociological sexuality studies ways.
That's really fucking cool.
Yeah, so anyway,
Well then,
that's compet, and
that's
basically
it.
impacts everything I talk about. Like compet basically impacts everything I talk about with sexuality these days because it's the thing that like I think about a lot. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to share? I mean, you've been sharing all along, but I know that this is also a topic that impacts you for sure.
No, I think. Sorry, my bottom's getting a little bit numb. Other than the picture of my booby notebook, no, I don't think there's anything else I want to share. Like, it is something that speaks to me a lot. I mean, chat and any viewers of the VOD have heard that multiple times. Just thank you, really. Like, I had another big light bulb moment, although slightly sad. Yeah, thank you. You're very smart,
You're very
and
welcome.
I love you.
Oh, I love you too. And I think like to validate a little bit, like sad light bulb moments can lead to a lot less sadness in the future, right? Like sometimes we
100%.
need to process historic sadness
Yeah.
to really figure shit out,
It's
right?
that
Like,
whole, like, if you've got a wound or a pimple or whatever, it's got to get worse before it gets better sort of thing, right?
and like Jinx says, I'm sad but also happy, if that makes sense. And it totally makes sense, right? Like it is hard to grieve historic pain later. It is hard. It is hard to dredge it up and feel it and mourn and grieve and wish that you could have had a better childhood, a better teenage years, a better 20s, whatever it was, all of the above, maybe better 40s, whatever it is for you. But also, one, knowing that you're not alone in that grief and that other people are also having aha moments together can maybe
Aha.
produce some like collegiality and some sense of spirit. And yeah, all of them. Word jinx. But also, like, once you dig that shit up, pull it out from the roots. The weed is out of the garden. So sucks, but also maybe hopeful for the future that like once we know better, we do better. That's the thing I always say when it comes to like fucking, and it's not my saying, it's
No
someone
better,
else's
do
saying, but
better.
like know better, do better, right? Like we fucked up. Okay, we know better. We're gonna do better now. Once you have that information, you get to like move forward.
It's another
Yeah.
t-shirt.
All right. Is it time for us to be done?
I reckon so. I've got to get some dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
many
I've got to check
t-shirts.
on
We
some
should have a
kittens.
t-shirt counter.
We just need a geek herring line,
I
which
could build
is
a
like
t-shirt counter too.
WHAQ, WHAQ shirts, Crowded Tavern shirts, geek herring works. Like, but we need to start actively like, yes, you have a shop. We can, but like, because there's also zingers from the Crowded Tavern, right? Like there's stuff and like things we can do where we just like collectively have our shop. People can buy from WHAQ and the Crowded Tavern and whatever else, whatever we add in, because you know, if you want to show on Geek Herring TV, there's a form.
Oh,
Get in
what a
touch with us.
segue. Oh,
We'll
that was hot.
we want you here. We want you to be a part of this amazing
Damn,
collective.
Daniel.
And and like you can also have a place in this community for sure to produce, to create with like-minded folks who want to tell stories, who want to share perspectives of a world and have a voice to contribute, because we've got room for a lot of voices here. So do you want to be a part of us? Get that form.
Okay, bye.
What are we doing in a couple weeks, Liz? It's your show.
Well, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to commit myself. I mean, I'll commit myself to the show, but oh, stop it. You mean you can listen to Gemma all day and me just quip here and there?
No, you are valid.
Quip here and there, here and there.
Except your compliments.
No. No. So in a couple of weeks, I am going to be taking the... Shut up, Liz, keep talking. That's mixed messaging. That's mixed messaging. I'm going to be talking about signalling. How... You know, talking about the subtle and not so subtle ways that queer people tell other queer people that they're queer people. Queer people.
I really want to say something, but I feel like we should keep it for that show. But
go on.
I just so like, you know how it's really common for women to have the ring finger be the accent nail color? That was signaling lesbian, like queerness, like sapphicness, at first, right? And now it's just really common. But that whole accent nail is
Stop wiggling your finger.
Nail.
Stop that. So we are going to be talking hankies and nails and carabiners and shoelaces. Well, yeah, okay, bootlaces. I mean, bootlaces are a lot of other shit as well with bootlaces, but well, I'm sure it will come up. Yeah. So
and maybe some flowers.
The week after next week, everyone's going to have new shoelaces and key rings, and
everyone's going to like have
a t-shirt that says bookseller on
online shop open to be like, I need to buy the accessories that signal my being.
Oh my god, I'm having a brain blast.
Yeah. Anyway.
Mate. Oh no. Okay. Maybe.
Yuffie,
So,
it's literally been years since I've had all my nails the same color.
what if I change all the finger colours? Well, I'll see if there's any specifics to the signalling as well. You could have been signalling for a long time and not realised. It makes me want to start my project up again, but we are too busy right now. But I used to have like an affiliate site called Accidentally Queer, and it was items that were queer coded but weren't meant to be queer coded at all. So like I've got a set of bedding that one has cats on it, pussies. I didn't need to make that connection for you. But the cats are pink, yellow, and blue. So it's an accidental pan bed covers, and it was just like random stuff in everyday life and in stores that were accidentally queer coded. I mean, like, if anyone wants to submit any products or join me on a venture, I will not take much tempting to start something. So
we have
just
enough
saying.
ventures happening in the next month.
Just saying.
We need to like not start too many things right now. We've got a lot of irons in the fire.
Someone I'm glad you appreciated that connection, but all I can think is that a designer from Asda, was like, pussies. And yeah, I bought that bed sheet before knowing really what pansexuality was. It was a sign. Anyway.
Amazing. Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate you an awful lot. Awful lot.
WHAQ is a key part of our lives, and we are really grateful to spend this time with you, chatting with you, sharing with you. Everyone always like shows up and has stories and contributes, and it is really affirming and beautiful and really just feels like a community discussion. And we really appreciate all of you.
Oh God, I keep wanting to talk about lots of half-baked shit.
No. Maybe we'll have an episode for that. But like the next episode is my last one in Canada.
Well, I was actually going to talk about where the show might be available in the future, but it's fine. Don't worry about it.
We'll get there. We do want to like.
Oh, so we're going
to
be
a bit more professional with stuff, but soon.
Yeah, it might be available in other places other than Twitch and just YouTube, essentially.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling, and I'm going to take a picture of my tits for you all. Let's find someone to raid.
And on that note, good thing you're like really gentle about the fact that it's someone else's channel.
I can say the word tits. I just can't actually show them, right? Where are we going? Any ideas?
Would we like to go see our friend Nyx?
Oh, okay.
Now that we're on Wednesdays, we can see our friend Nyx on Wednesday.
Let's go and see the Phoenix of the peculiar variety. Please join us for a raid, because raids are one of the things where bigger really is better. I'm just saying, like, let's go make a splash. So grab that raid message. Amanda, are you gonna paste that, or do you want me or Gem to do so?
Maybe you?
Cool.
Oh no, Amanda does that. Great. Thank you, Amanda.
Wicked. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Look how much we're figuring out the raid thing.
We are.
TV. It's happening.
We're killing it. And soon to be a shop. Just maybe. Cool. Right. See you all soon. See you in a fortnight. Come back next week for the wonderful Crowded Tavern. And obviously, OG Geek Herring is going to be before then as well on the Tuesday. So
on Tuesday.
Yeah, wicked.
And if
Have
you want to
fun.
join us, the forum's in the Discord.
Yes. See you soon. See you in the Discord. With my tits. Bye.